Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. A controversial new aid distribution group backed by the US and Israel has begun working in Gaza. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation said lorry loads of food had been delivered to secure sites and that it had begun distribution to people. It did not say where or how much aid had been handed out. The group, which uses armed American security contractors, aims to bypass the UN as the main supplier of aid to the 2.1 million Palestinians in Gaza, where experts are warning of a looming famine after an Israeli blockade that lasted 11 weeks. The United Nations and many aid groups have refused to cooperate with the plans, which they say contradict humanitarian principles and appear to weaponize aid.
How are the elderly who have been starved supposed to walk miles and miles to access humanitarian assistance? How are children who have no parents supposed to enter what may be militarized zones to collect assistance?
Appears to be an effort to feed just enough Gazan civilians so that the starvation is then targeted more precisely at Hamas and its operatives.
A naval court in Greece has charged 17 coast guards over the deadliest migrant boat disaster in the Mediterranean Sea for a decade. Up to 650 people were feared to have drowned when the overcrowded Adriana fishing vessel sank near Pylos off the Greek coast in the early hours of the 14th of June 2023. Survivors said Coast Guards had caused their boat to capsize in a failed attempt to tow it and then silenced witnesses. The Greek authorities have always denied the claims. The UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer says the whole country stands with Liverpool after scenes of joy turned into utter horror and devastation on Monday night. Almost 50 people were injured, including 4 children, after a car ploughed into a crowd during Liverpool FC's Premier League victory parade. 4 people are still in a serious condition in hospital. A 53-year-old white British man believed to be the driver of the vehicle has been arrested.
The car stopped at the scene and a 53-year-old white British man from the Liverpool area was arrested. We believe him to be the driver of the vehicle. Extensive inquiries are ongoing to establish the circumstances leading up to the collision, and it is vital that people do not speculate or spread misinformation on social media.
North Korea has criticised the US's plan for a futuristic Golden Dome missile shield, saying it could turn outer space into a potential nuclear warfield. The defence system, which President Donald Trump plans to unveil by the end of his term, is aimed at countering next-generation aerial threats to the US, including ballistic and cruise missiles. Pyongyang's foreign ministry accused Washington of being hell-bent to militarise outer space. King Charles has delivered a significant speech in Canada's Parliament, offering support in the country's dispute with the US President Donald Trump. The King and Queen Camilla received a warm welcome when they arrived in Ottawa on the royal couple's first trip to Canada since the start of their reign. Soon after arriving, the King held a meeting with Prime Minister Mark Carney, who was recently elected on a wave of anti-Trump public opinion. Meanwhile, a Canadian man has been sentenced to almost 2 years in prison for stealing a famous photograph of Sir Winston Churchill, known as the Roaring Lion. Geoffrey Wood had pleaded guilty to stealing the original print from Ottawa's Chateau Laurier Hotel between Christmas 2021 and early January 2022. He also admitted to committing forgery. Ottawa police said it was found last year in Genoa, in Italy, in the possession of a private buyer who was unaware it was stolen. The image depicts a frowning Churchill, who was 67 at the time, shortly after he delivered a speech to the Canadian Parliament. And the Nepalese Sherpa Kami Rita, also known as Everest Man, has scaled Mount Everest for the 31st time, breaking his own record for the most climbs up the world's tallest peak. The 55-year-old, who was guiding a group of Indian Army officials up the mountain, reached its 8,849-metre summit at 4 a.m. local time on Tuesday. Kami Rita first summited Everest in 1994, guiding a commercial expedition, and has made the peak almost every year since. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.